cumplir hoy tu voluntad. Por eso hoy declaramos, te venimos a cantar. Celebramos tu presencia, llenas hoy este lugar.
Well, like I said, they have a surprise for us, and it's actually a pretty cool idea. I didn't think about it, but when I was told about it, I was like, dang, I'm excited to do this. And we're having since we've been talking about wisdom, we're having a panel today. That's why you see all these chairs. And so if I can get everyone that's in the panel to come up, and that's what we'll be doing today, talking about wisdom, talking about how to be wise and how to apply it in your life. I think it's one thing to have it spiritually, but in your day-to-day life, practically, how do we apply wisdom? And in Proverbs 4:7-9, it says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Embrace her, and she will honor you. She will give you a garland to grace your head, and present you with a glorious crown. And in reality, our biggest purpose in life is to glorify God. And everything that you do, glorify God. And so last week I mentioned that, if we want God's will, we need to have it God's way. And so this is why we have this panel today, and we will be using this panel time to help us apply in our day-to-day life. Where am I sitting? Oh, I get to sit next to my favorite couple after my parents. So first is we're going to be going with, this is my mom, by the way. Her name is Blanca. Yes, she's the best mom on earth. But so there's a principle that she's going to be able to talk to, and it says, a smart person will learn from their own mistakes. The wise learn from the mistakes of others, but the wisest people learn from other successes. And Mom, you've educated yourself, and you still are, and you've sacrificed a lot. I've seen it at home, how much you sacrifice for us, and you sacrifice to better yourself in all aspects of your life. So can you please let them know what are some of the things that you've done, and how did you apply this principle in your life?
Good morning, first of all. It's my first time up here talking, so I'm probably going to be a little nervous, just a little. But yeah, I was reading the question that we were going to talk about this morning, and inside of me I was like, wow, this is a question for somebody that's really smart and has a lot of wisdom. And so when my son was going to ask me the question, I'm like, it took a while, because I'm like, I don't know if they feel that I am that wise, because I'm the mom, so I'm like, I don't know. But one of the points that I wanted to make is that throughout your life, or throughout my life, it's been hard because of the culture that I was raised in. It hasn't been easy because I was raised with a single mom. I don't know how many of us have that. So it was hard for us, but I knew in my soul that even if I was told by others that I wasn't smart enough to make it, that I knew that God had plans for me. And I'm so happy that I was raised in a church, that I was raised with principles from God, because that helped me out when I was in high school or when I was in middle school, because that's really when you start. That's when you kind of start to learn about yourself. So one of the points that I want to make is, even if you're around your friends and you start to feel that you are different than them, that you're not going to be likely to succeed, because back then in the 80s, it's either you're likely to succeed or you're not. And so I remember even going through my yearbook recently, I'm like, oh wow, all of these people were likely to succeed. But I can look at them and I can see that many of them did not turn out the way that they wanted to turn out. And I had to learn from that. I had to learn from not taking it word per word what they say to you. You have to show that it's not true. And so I had to struggle. I mean, I went to college, graduated from high school, went to college, and recently, not long ago, graduated with my master's. And so I'm very happy to show that I am likely to succeed. But also in my spiritual life, it's a struggle as well. Trying to be the mom that you're supposed to be is hard. Trying to teach my kids differently than you're supposed to teach, because in my mind, I said, well, I'm not going to be like any other mom. I need to be different. And that's what I've always worked on, is to take things differently and show my kids that they can also do things differently. Don't do what everybody is doing. But I also wanted to say, my last thing, I'm sorry it took forever. I also wanted to say that it is very important that you surround yourself with people that are successful. I had just a few, because it's not many, a few professors in college that would tell me things that I needed to do that were not correct. They have their own ideas. There's, thoughts that they have that are not my thoughts, that are not God's thoughts. So make sure that the first thing you do is seek the wisdom of God. And that's in the Bible. That's the first thing you need to do. Second of all, find people who have wisdom from up above and that are successful in what they do, so that they can show you how to go, show you the path.
Amen. Mom, I just want to say that you've been the best mom ever, and thank you for all the work you've put in. But next point is, it is important for us to understand that those who influence us the most reflect what our future will be like. In other words, tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell you where you're going. And if you heard that wisdom phrase, it's very true. I've found it in my life. But in Proverbs 13:20, it says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffer harm." According to this verse, if you want a successful future, hang out with successful people, right? If you want to be more like God, if you want to get closer to God, hang out with people that have that same hunger to be closer to God. And for that, we're going to go to Daniel Cabrera, who's our worship leader. And
Good morning, good morning. I get to use my... Oh, you're still going?
I imagine life hasn't been all great. Every season has been different. I imagine there's been a lot of highs, and I imagine there's been a lot of lows. But I think something that I want to know too, because I'm still working on it, but a lot of people pretty sure want to know is, how did you maintain being faithful and serving throughout the highs and the lows? And who were the people, and what kind of people did you have in your life to help you, be at church more and to stay consistent?
Now, good morning. How's everyone doing? I get to use my sister's mic, so that's pretty cool. There's fire in this mic. No. For me, I mean, it's an easy question, but it's hard to explain, because, I mean, at least for me, my sister and I, we've been in church since we were born. Like, we were basically born on the pews, so. On the pews, yeah. But, I mean, the people that influenced most, I mean, obviously, I'm in worship, so my dad was involved in worship, so I was always around the musical side. But more than that, I mean, my parents served in church. Like, my dad was part of the worship team. My mom was everywhere. She did youth, kids. I mean, there was nothing she didn't do. But I think that's what kind of, like, I got attracted to, I got attached to, because I was always around leadership, and I was always around people of influence in church. So that helped me, motivated me to just follow them, and through them, I got more attached to God, and that's why I'm here today. So that was kind of my teenage years, always, following along with my dad, and then my dad stopped playing for a while, and then it was just me and my sister playing. And then maybe when I was like 19, 20, I moved away, I did my own thing. I went to Phoenix, and that's when I joined another ministry. And I think that's where I got more exposure to different types of leadership and different type of people and different ways of ministering, because I was used to my local church. But when I went away, that's when I experienced different preachers, different worship leaders, a lot of different things. And And I guess a wise thing that I did was I learned from the good, and I didn't grab the bad that they, because there are a lot of bad habits, but thankfully that never got attached. And then after that, I think more importantly, it's not so much what people influence, but exactly who influenced me. Because as worshipers, I think we have to be in love with God. If we're not in love with God, then it's we're doing this for nothing. So as I got older, it shifted more from following my parents and the church to my dependency in God. And then that's where this all happens. My love for God makes me want to serve. I think there's no greater way to serve than worshiping. And that's where I think God has used me the most. And one thing that you said was, smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from other mistakes. Thankfully, I've never made a huge mistake where I'm like, oh gosh, but you learn from other people's mistakes, and when you're in worship, you get attacked. You get attacked from all kinds of ways, family problems, cancer. Thankfully, cancer is away from my family, but that stuff happens, and the more you worship, the more you serve. It doesn't even have to be worship. It can be serving in whatever area you want. Like, God sees that, and God honors that, and God's going to bless you even more. So, I think that's it.
Amen. Can we get a round of applause? I once heard a phrase by someone say that worship is a weapon. And so I think it's very true that, when you're being attacked, you got a weapon, and it's called worship. And so the next people we have is Gregory and Cindy. Yes. And so the question I have for you is, phrase really is, don't make eternal decisions based on temporary situations. And so you guys are now 3 years married, right? And how would you say that this principle of wisdom, how do you apply it in decision making when it comes to marriage? Because I'm pretty sure it's hard. I don't know yet, but I'm pretty sure it is.
It's a big phrase, eternal decisions on permanent or on temporary situations, making those decisions, because it's something that applies in everyday life with our marriage. And we all are in different timelines of our marriage. There's 6 months, there's 25 years, there's 20 years. Well, 3 years in, this has been a big thing, and it makes me think back to our disagreements, which we like to call in our house discussions. And
we're just talking. Nobody's angry. We're not arguing.
We're just
talking.
We're just
okay?
using words, okay? But when things get rough, with me and with her, one thing that we've established even early on is remember the why. Why did we get married? Why did we fall in love? Why are we at this point in our lives? So I will be like, let's take some space. Let's take some space before this gets destructive. Because one thing that when you say stuff, those words can never be taken back. And we both come from two different cultures, from my family to her family. And, unfortunately, in my family, my parents are divorced. And one thing of wisdom with this is my dad specifically himself has says, don't make the same mistakes I did. What you say matters. Don't go to bed angry every night, because when you go to bed angry every night, you don't give the time, there's no healing. It just festers and it grows more and more. And, quitting is easy. That's an easy thing to do. And I think that's something that we've realized when we have these decisions is you can pack up your bags and go. But what I told her from day one is, if we're married, divorce is not an option. You're not getting divorced. So wherever you go, I'm going to be there.
Make your decision wisely. Overall, as Gregory said, his dad was crucial in the beginning of our marriage because he did have the failures. And, we've been learning through this whole season right now of wisdom is, okay, smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from others' mistakes, but the wisest of people are learning from the successes of others. So, his dad was a mentor for us from the mistakes. But then, we've been very blessed to have my family that is very devoted in serving God and following those footsteps. And that, I think, has been very important for us because it's an example to follow. So when we think, okay, this is it. We're living the worst of the worst right now. We see successful marriages, especially here at church. Many of you inspire us having 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and it's like, okay, it's possible. So the decisions that we make, okay, we can make the better choice. And of course, it's not always going to be like that, but the biggest thing that makes it hard is because it's an everyday choice. Every minute, every conversation that we have, it's how do you react? How do you say? Are you taking the step back to think? And, think before you speak. And I think sometimes that's what gets us in worse situations, because it's like, man, I didn't think this time.
Yeah, it just, sometimes, and it's our human nature, when we're in arguments or disagreements or discussions, you just want to say right off your chest, right away out of emotion, and then you really have to think back to this principle of, making eternal decisions on temporary situations, because like I said, whatever you say in that moment can change my marriage, our family for tomorrow. It can make a huge difference on what I say. And it's not only in the bad either, it's in the good. Like say for instance, we get a call for an interview or you get a promotion, instead of in a marriage going, oh man, they're doing better than me, what am I doing? You be the one of the biggest team players, the biggest cheerleader in that house, and you build them up. So you use words of encouragement and creation instead of destruction and bringing them down. So it's a very important principle in our household,
and overall, it's for us, we try to really think of us being a team, which I think is kind of like, okay, basic information, be a team, you're married now, but within that team, it's like, okay, we need to be strong during the bad times, but strong during the good times, and making decisions. I mean, like I said, we make decisions every single day and every moment, so we don't want to go all crazy when we're having the excitement, just like you were saying earlier, is that the enemy confuses us. Everything's going good, we stray away from God, but is that decision we made that one day going to have a domino effect in 5 years when we all of a sudden are not involved in church or not trusting God or putting him first because we were too caught up in the good and the everything's great right now? We can put that second. I think
Amen.
that's it.
yeah, that's it. We're
Sorry.
I certainly think to applying that wisdom in my life has been, there have been times where I've wanted to quit leadership, wanted to quit what I'm doing at church because of situations outside of church, It's not even things that were going on here, or things that were going on outside, and I wanted to make that decision, I'm done because of a temporary situation, and then you get out of it and God's like, you're really done, And so last but not least, we have my brother, Daniel, and my question for you is, what would you say would be the wisdom principle you have learned in this season of your life that you would want others to learn early on?
Hi, everybody. When I first was told about this, it was last week when she told all of us, I went up to her and I asked her, like, oh, where do you want to go with this? And I kind of had an idea already of a principle that I feel sometimes gets overlooked. And it's the principle and the wisdom principle of knowing who you are and basing your journey off who you are. It's great, we have to be a smart person to learn from our own mistakes, a wise person to learn from others. But I think also you have to be somebody who learns based off who you are. You and better yet, based off who God created you to be. For a long time, I got caught up in looking at others' journey and trying to build off of that journey. Oh, this person's doing this, well, I'm going to try that and do it the same exact way. It didn't work because that was a God-given purpose for that person. And I related so much to these couple verses in Jeremiah 1, 5-8. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he said, I shaped you before you were born. I knew who you were going to be before you even were born. And I know what's coming for you. I know you better than you know yourself. And Jeremiah responds back to him, but God, I'm just the boy. Literally tells him, I'm just the boy. How am I special? And he tells him, God straight up tells him, he's like, I'll tell you what to say, and you'll say it. Don't be afraid of a soul. I'll be right there looking after you. A lot of times we fear so much the journey because we see other people's journeys, or we compare our journeys because we see the successes of other journeys sometimes. And I did that to myself. I intimidated myself because I'm like, oh, well, I can never be him, so why try? And you know what I did there? I made this realization. I wasted time there, looking at other people's journey, basing my life off that, and not basing it off the foundation of God, of who God made me to be. That was a waste of time instead of an investment, because when you invest time in who God intended you to be, there's gain. There's gain in loving who you are. You know, and I remember at the beginning of the year, I was in my room all by myself, just listening to music.
Like always listening.
And thanks, Mom. And I kind of got a bit down because I was seeing, like, I was on the dreaded social media looking at everybody from high school, and some of them were being successful and some of them weren't, and I was just like, well, what am I doing? Like, I can't do that. There's no point in doing this. And God kind of told me, he kind of questioned me like how he questioned Peter in a sense. He's like, Daniel, do you love me? And that question came to mind, and I was like, yes, I do. Well, if you do, then you love who I created you to be. You love who I created you to be. Embrace your journey. Embrace your mistakes. Embrace the good things about you and build off of that. That's the wisest thing. One of the wisest things you can do is build off who you are. Your foundation and who God created you to be, not somebody else. I can't sing like Alejandra. She sings great, but I will never be able to sing like her. I can't sing like Henry. He sings awesome. I'll never be able to sing. I have to build off who I am. Like, one of the biggest things I've seen, we had people who audition sometimes, and the biggest mistake sometimes they make is they try to imitate the singer from the song. And respectfully, you're not gonna sound like him. You're never gonna sound like him. Sound like you. Use your voice. Your voice is the one we wanna hear, not anybody else's. And so just to finish this off, the biggest thing I've learned is I gotta be happy with who I am, content with who I am, and build off that, adjust off that. Because I can put this fake image of who I want to be, and I'll never meet that. There will always be one Michael Jordan. There will never be another, no matter how many times people try. No, even Kobe wasn't. Kobe was Kobe. Kobe was Kobe. Michael was Michael. Jordan's going to be Jordan. Carla's going to be Carla. I'm going to be me. Blanca's going to be Blanca. At the end of the day, you're just going to be you, and God's
We're
happy.
unique.
We're unique. Yes.
Amen. Can we get a round of applause? So as he was talking, some verses came to me, and it was one where they asked Jesus, like, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus was like, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your neighbor as you love yourself. But I think what people love to do is love God, and they love to love people, but they hate to love themselves. And oftentimes the reason that's so hard is not because you don't love yourself and because you want that in your life, it's because you just don't know who you are. You know, like, how could you love someone you don't really know, you know? Like, it's like some of you love yourself from a distance, you know? Like, some of you are too busy, and it's for all the young people, dating everyone else, you don't even know who you are. And how do you know what you want, or how do you know what God wants for you when you're, like, stuck in, I just don't know who I am? And, you know, I've realized that you behave according to what you believe. And when you believe in God, you behave like that. You read His Word, and you find out more about yourself. Because along the way, and there's something that I certainly learned is I'm never really going to be ready. I learn as I go, you know. I learn on the way. If I wait and I'm like, all right, I'm not ready yet. Like, what am I to get ready for? I don't even know what's ahead of me. how do I ever know if I'm ready? You know, but once you know who you are, you walk in faith, right? And you walk in faith and you realize, you know what, God, even if I fail, you're going to catch me. Even if I fall, you're going to be there so I can land on your love, right? But oftentimes, you know, something I recently learned is your faith struggles when you're not aware of who's the ultimate authority. And if you don't know that God's the ultimate authority, don't question why your faith is really struggling. Because sometimes our faith will struggle, but we don't realize that God's in charge. So what happens is our faith crumbles. Has that happened to you? It's happened to me before. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And then I want to quit, but then I realize He's in charge. God's in charge. At the end of the day, I'm going to win because the Bible says all things will work for my good when they're in God's hands. And then I need to realize that He's the ultimate authority and let my faith be connected on that. And, you know, thank you. I'm like, we all have wisdom seeds. Recently, this past series that we've been giving have been seeds of wisdom. But what they do in your life is up to you. You know, it's not about just coming here, sitting, hearing, and leaving. It's about coming here, hearing the word, applying it to your life. And because all this is applied on Monday. I mean, everyone loves Sunday but hates Monday. But the same God of Sunday is the same God of Monday. So you don't just come to church and then tomorrow be like, all right, well, I'll wait for next Sunday. You know, you come to church, I can't wait for tomorrow. Because what I learned here, what I learned today, I get to apply tomorrow. You know, and make sure you keep God's word livable in your life every single day. Read His word a little bit, even if it's a little bit, a lot of bit. Thank you. You know, honestly, if I can be honest, very practical. Like, if you're struggling with reading the Bible, there are actually Bible plans on the Bible app that actually do the reading for you. You just read it, and then they give you a devotional about it. So if you're really struggling, buy a book. You know, we have a lot of great preachers that wrote books, and the Bible app has plenty of great. If you're just dealing with things, you know, search it up, and what is it called? A plan will come up that will help you with that. You know, and so this is our panel. This was our wisdom panel, and so right now I think we're gonna have the worship team come up, and but as we get ready and we let that happen, just think back to what you learned today, and whatever you took from today, realize that, you know, think about it all day. You know, maybe think about it all day, and then tomorrow, when you wake up, you know, what did I learn on Sunday? Like, what is it that I learned, and how can I apply it, and where do I need to go now? And ask God for that guidance. Make sure that you're always moving. I'm not sure if we're ready, but amen.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time. Thank you.
Todos lo hemos usado, tu voz hemos podido escuchar, nos hemos humillado para cumplir hoy tu voluntad.